This is Arts Alive. I'm Lynda Philippi. My guest is Ben Tassell from the Valley Repertory Theater. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here today.
Absolutely.
So I'm pretty excited to hear about your project because really honestly, I guess I hadn't known that Valley Repertory does such a fascinating thing. So why did you tell us about that?
Yeah, so this is the fourth season of Valley Repertory, and every year so far they've done a Stories of Newberg production. It's an original show based on interviews from people in the local community, and a team of writers writes it every year. And for the first time this year, they're making this show, which is really their flagship show. They're making it their Christmas show, and they're also making it a musical. And so it's a little different this year, but it's still based on interviews from people in the community, and it was written over the summer months and into the fall. And we open on December 5th, but we're working hard to sort of represent these stories well.
And so each year, I assume you have a different maybe theme or focus?
Yeah, each year the season as a whole has a different focus, and the Stories of Newberg show is really their way to focus on that theme in a really direct and intense way, whereas the other shows they do might touch on it. This one is really all about that. So this year's theme for the whole season is character matters. So it's really all about what goes into making a person, and what makes people tick. And so this is a great show to explore that with when you're dealing with real stories of real people.
And did any of it revolve around holiday memories or? Yeah,
it's definitely in part a memory play. A lot of people were sharing how they came to feel the way they feel about the holidays. I think that's something everyone can sort of relate to. We all have holiday memories and experiences and feelings, exactly, and all these things that go into making our experience of the holidays. And so we got to hear about some of that from different people in the community, and sort of that direct the shape of the show.
So when you're doing the interviews, I mean, were you a part of the interview team?
I was a part of the writing team. I didn't do any interviews myself, but I, was reading transcript and hearing interviews and such.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. When they go out to do the interviews, is it a written interview? Is it a video interview? How do they do it?
Well, what we do is we tape record, or we record, and then we transcribe the interviews and send it to all the writers.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they sort of go based off of that. The reason we do that is because there's a certain level to which you want to be able to take certain artistic freedoms, which is really hard to do if you're either hearing someone's voice or seeing them face to face.
Right, okay, I see. So the fact of just being able to read the transcripts, it kind of disembodies the experience of connecting it with a person.
Yeah, and I think in that way we're kind of in a strange way, we're able to serve their story better by not being so caught up in, does that sound like them? Can I hear that coming out of their voice instead of thinking about story and actor and all that kind of stuff?
Sure. So how many different people did they interview for this particular project?
They interviewed 3 this year, which is a small number for them. Usually it's a much broader selection. But this year, 3 very specific individuals who are sort of pillars in the community when it comes to Christmas, different Christmas events and things. And so we're really focusing on their 3 stories, and then a lot of other minor characters come in who are also actual real people in their lives.
So the supporting actor in the story of my worst Thanksgiving ever, so to speak.
Yeah,
okay, I
exactly.
got it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I love that. Well, that's really interesting. So then you take, I mean, I can think possibly a challenge would be taking all these various stories, making them come together, but then trying to turn it into a musical as well.
Yeah, that was really a new challenge for us. We'd never written an original musical before, but I was one of 2 composers on the show, and thank goodness for that, because I don't know if I could have done it alone, but we ended up creating some really interesting songs. But what we did is we pulled from the interviews certain themes, and then wrote based on those themes. So either an experience that was defining for that character, or a theme that they have around the holidays, and then we let that sort of inform how we wrote the music and sort of where that would be placed in their story. And then we'd give it to the writers and say, write a scene for this.
You know, really, the way you describe it, I really can't wait to see it. It sounds so interesting. Now, you have a background in theater and composition?
Yes.
From George Fox?
From George Fox, yeah.
So you've been a part of this community yourself for a number of years.
Yeah. I was involved in Valley Repertory Theater as soon as I graduated from college, and some former roommates of mine in college actually started the company. So I've been involved from the very beginning, and it's been really exciting to see them sort of tells the stories that serve their community really well. Their first year, the Stories of Newberg show was about cultural barriers, and it was a multilingual show.
Oh, okay.
In Spanish and English. It was a really interesting production, and over the years we've gotten to explore different aspects of the community, and this year we're just trying something a little new. But yeah, I'm theater and music at George Fox. That's my background as far as education.
So in terms of the other musical partners that you had, did you pull anybody else in from the community, like George Fox students, or who have you been working with?
Well, the other composer, his name is James Pick, and he was on staff at George Fox. He also graduated from George Fox, but he was the resident accompanist for a while. Now he's a composer in the Portland area.
Nice.
Yeah, and my bent as far as music tends to be a little bit more in the singer-songwriter genre. I tend to write, record, and perform a lot of singer-songwriter music, and his is very classical. So blending those two styles together has created a really nice sound that our actors have really been able to find a home in and really express well.
So this year, as opposed to previous years, you had to pick people who could also sing.
Yes, that was a new challenge. Some people, that was either the thing that made them want to audition for the first time for Valley Rep, or some of the people that had auditioned for previous shows and we knew they were strong actors. They took a little more convincing, going, "It's okay, you can try out. Well, we won't cast you if you can't sing. It's okay."
Well, and you can always do. I mean, if somebody's a really strong actor and you really think, "Oh, they're perfect for this role," they can kind of sing their way through it, like that character actor-y thing.
Yeah, like Rex Harrison in My Fair Lady. Yeah,
exactly.
And there was actually one particular role that we wrote that way on purpose because we thought it fit the character. And that role, most of his songs are just very talky, and that actor who's playing him is just doing a great job. But he wouldn't consider himself a singer. He's been in the chorus for musicals, but he's never been a lead in a musical. But he's just doing such a fabulous job because his voice is so expressive, even though he wouldn't consider himself a singer. So.
Okay, so ever since you said Rex Harrison, all I can see was, "But let a woman in your life." Remember that one?
Yeah, that's a great song.
It is a great song.
Yeah.
So you have the opportunity to be playful and serious and kind of sappy, weepy if you want to be, and funny and all kinds of things.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
The process, just shaping it from the beginning like this. The show is called "O Little Town," and we took a lyric from "O Little Town of Bethlehem," "The hopes and fears of all the years I met in thee tonight." We thought that's Newberg around Christmas time. There's hopes, there's fears.
Oh, sure.
There's that angst, but there's also that heartwarming. There's the weepy. There's all that kind of stuff. The funny.
Well, yeah.
And so that's been a theme that we repeated over and over. You'll even hear it lyrically if you come to the show. The hopes and fears of all the years are just sort of crossing over one another and sort of intersecting during this holiday season, and that's been really fun to play with.
Oh, I think that's great. Wow. So, I mean, in some ways, it must have been when you did do the auditions, kind of like, okay, we have to narrow it down to 8 people.
Yeah.
Knowing that they're going to play myriad roles, right?
Exactly. Who's going to be versatile enough? We have one actress in particular who I was just talking with at rehearsal the other night who said, "I've never played so many roles in my life." And I was like, I know you really have to differentiate between them for the audience to really track with it. And so you really have to, at auditions, you have to really see if your actors are going to be able to take direction in a way that they're going to be able to play totally different people in 2 different scenes.
Have you seen that Rob Lowe commercial?
Where
Rob Lowe plays the nerd
himself,
and then he also plays like the creepy guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. It's just a perfect example of, you would, there you go, three different characters, right?
Yeah, and what a joy as an actor to be able to
pick it up like that.
Exactly.
And sometimes the only thing that you get to do is either take on or put on an apron, or a hat or something, or grab a cane.
Yeah.
And that's your prop, and then you have to seg into that character.
Exactly. Yeah, just a slight change of voice or movement or costuming, and that's the great thing about theater is suspension of disbelief. The audience knows that it's the same person, but they're willing to go with you and say, no, they're playing someone else right now.
Exactly.
And I think that's really cool.
And so as a director, you are the only director.
Yeah.
Are you directing like the voice piece and the music and the?
I'm the director, and then we have a music director who's also our accompanist for the show.
And there's not, I'm assuming, just by the nature of the show, there's not a lot of dancing involved.
No.
Okay, so we don't have a fancy footwork director.
No.
Okay.
No, we have a little bit of choreography that I brought in a choreographer for even just one song, and other than that, it's not that kind of show for the most part.
Okay,
Yeah.
And no dogs or anything,
No.
no animals that you have to corral across the stage or anything.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So it does. I guess you can give us a little teaser. Does any of it revolve around like the holiday meal?
Yeah, there's some of that. There's some of that for sure. We sort of rooted the whole show in a tree lighting ceremony.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Which we return to over and over. It's our opening number. It's our Act 1 finale. It's our Act 2 finale. Because we figured that was a really common place for
Sure.
people to intersect with one another and for their stories to sort of, regardless of how you feel about the holidays, regardless of your memories and your story about the holidays, when you come to that event or an event like that, there's certain feelings, there's certain atmosphere there. So we decided to sort of root the play in that, and then tell the stories from that place.
You know, listening to you speak, there's so many things that are going through my mind, but it's kind of cathartic, isn't it? When you think about all the stories that people have, and in fact, I just read, somebody posted the other day on Facebook of, please remember, as you're getting all warm and fuzzy about the holidays, that some of us have, really bad memories of sorrow and abuse and, all these horrible things. And what I thought at the time, and I guess what I actually still do think, is we always get to choose how we frame a memory.
Yeah.
And you always get to rewrite your own script. And sometimes I think a situation like this, people, you go in and you watch something, and maybe the hopes and the fears at the intersection of that, you say, maybe I'd let go of some of that pain, and we move into something that's new and different, and just choose to frame it differently. Because you could take the whole panorama, and you could take out one little chunk, the bad chunk, but then you could also take the funny chunk, or the redemptive chunk, or whatever it's going to be. And I think that's a really important piece of the way you look at life in general.
Absolutely.
But all these experiences and the stories that you hear as writers, it's got to trigger some of your own stuff too.
Absolutely.
And you think, oh, yeah.
Absolutely. There were certain songs that I was writing for certain characters and going, I'm actually really writing this from my own experience because it's very similar to theirs. Or even as a director, just watching the way the actors' stories intersect with their character stories and being able to direct that moment to say, like, where does this story or this line, where does that hit you in your experience of this? And they get to sort of find that within themselves and play that. So it's definitely a cathartic experience, I think, for all of us. And then when the audience comes in, the audience we view as sort of like the final actor in the story. And as the audience comes in and we're responding with the audience, we're sort of hopefully bringing them into that experience too as we tell this story together. Maybe there's some release, maybe there's some things that we remember, all that kind of stuff.
Now, do you do anything like, sometimes they do like a talk back, although this might not be exactly the kind of play, because a lot of times it's social issue things.
Sure.
But do you do any of that stuff?
We usually do, yeah, and we do some with writers, some with directors, and then we actually often invite the actual subjects, the people we interviewed, to come do talkbacks.
Oh my gosh.
So there'll be some of that as well.
Wow, that's interesting. Do you do that for every performance or just selected performances?
I think we try to do it for every performance. That's somebody else's job at the company.
Right, of course.
Doing one thing, but they're kind of trying to get one for every performance. But then those will be announced as far as if we have certain nights that don't have one, or if we do. So. Okay,
now I realize that we're almost out of time. Yeah. So quickly give me the dates, times, and place.
Okay, so we open on the 5th of December in Newberg, the Chahelem Cultural Center. We're actually, for this production, because of construction in our black box space, we're across the street at the Masonic Lodge. It's just right next door.
Okay.
But we open December 5th. Our performances are at 7:30 on Fridays, 2 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. on Saturdays, and 2 p.m. on Sundays, and we run for 3 weekends.
Wow, so you've got 4 performances a weekend.
Yes, we do.
So 12 performances. Fabulous, that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I really appreciate that today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, good.